There was once a moon woman who mistook endurance for compatibility. She was luminous by nature, cyclical, generous with her tides. Where she walked, moisture followed. Not always rain, sometimes dew, sometimes underground rivers that only roots could feel. She did not arrive to conquer, she arrived to coexist. The desert saw her glow and called it peace. He did not understand that peace is a living agreement. He believed silence alone was virtue. He believed stillness absolved him of responsibility. He believed that as long as he did not strike, he was kind. The moon woman married the desert not because she needed him, but because she believed in transformation through presence. She believed that land remembered water. She believed patience could be reciprocal even when spoken in different languages. At first, the union bloomed. Where she rested, figs appeared, dates fattened, underground cisterns refilled. Animals returned along old migratory maps etched into bone memory. The desert grew proud of this abundance and called it natural, as if it had always been so, as if her labor was merely weather. But when she spoke of hurt, the desert went quiet. When she asked for repair, the desert went still. When she named what had been taken without acknowledgement, the desert said nothing and called it peace. Silence, he believed, was restraint. Stillness, he believed, was wisdom. The moon woman began to understand something fundamental. Peace without reciprocity is extraction. Silence without accountability is erosion. And land that does not respond to care will eventually consume what nourishes it. Still, she tried. She redirected rivers so they would not flood him. She moderated her tides. She softened her glow so it would not scorch his dunes with contrast. She spoke gently, then less, then not at all. The desert mistook this for harmony, but the soil knew better. The ground began to crack, not from drought, but from imbalance. The desert had learned to receive without responding, to benefit without tending. The moon woman felt her waters evaporating, not upward, but inward, pulled away from the surface by something colder than heat, neglect. This was when she began to retreat, not dramatically, not loudly, methodically. The moon woman did not disappear because she was weak. She withdrew because she was precise. She learned that generosity without witness becomes depletion. She learned that a blessing unprotected will be consumed by those who mistake access for entitlement. She learned that love without response turns sacred land into a quarry. So she moved her waters underground. The surface of the desert began to change. The figs thinned. The dates shrank. The animals stopped returning. The desert blamed cycles, fate, the sky, anything but himself. He called the change natural. He told himself she was still there because the moon still rose, even if it no longer fed the land. What he did not know was that beneath the sand, a kingdom was forming. The moon woman gathered what remained of her essence and shaped it inward. She carved chambers lined with salt and pearl. She planted trees whose roots interwove like counsels, sharing nutrients only with those that gave in return. She engineered channels that responded to intention, not force. This oasis was not hidden by chance. It was protected by design. Those who entered with hunger alone found mirages. Those who came with entitlement met traps, not of violence, but of exposure. Their own lack of integrity turned the paths back on themselves. Those who demanded water without offering care became lost in circles of their own expectations. But those who approached with humility felt the air cool. Those who spoke truth without accusation heard the ground soften. Those who asked, "How may I tend what I receive?" found springs rising to meet their feet. The moon woman did not stop being abundant. She stopped being available to misuse. Above ground, the desert grew quieter. He called the silence peace again, though now it echoed. He noticed the absence, but refused the inquiry. Accountability would require speech, and speech would require acknowledgement. Below ground, the moon woman built sustainably. Her oasis did not depend on her constant presence. It functioned through mutuality. It replenished itself because every element participated. Nothing was allowed to consume without contributing. The desert eventually noticed something unmistakable. Life was still possible, but not everywhere and not for everyone. Travelers spoke of a place where water answered intention. The desert scoffed. He said land owes nothing. He said silence is still peace. He said if the moon woman wanted to be known, she would return to the surface. He never asked why she left. What the desert forgot is that moons do not vanish. They orbit differently when gravity becomes hostile. What he forgot is that blessings are not permanent states, they are relationships. What he forgot is that abundance responds to care, not claims. The moon woman still rose each night, but her light no longer labored to heal land that refused to listen. She illuminated paths instead, subtle ones for those willing to walk attentively. And sometimes, when the desert cooled enough to reflect rather than absorb, he felt it, a faint underground current, not punishment, not revenge, simply the consequence of unreciprocated care. The oasis did not need him. That was the lesson he could not bear, because to acknowledge her independence would mean admitting that his silence had not been peace. It had been avoidance dressed as virtue. It would mean admitting that what he lost was not taken, but withdrawn. Some deserts remain deserts because they refuse to learn how to tend water. Some moons stop watering land not because they are cruel, but because they are wise. And some kingdoms thrive unseen, not waiting to be discovered, but waiting to be met correctly. And the oasis remains, alive, intelligent, and self-protecting, open only to those who understand that silence is not peace unless it is shared, and that love, like land, must be actively tended or it will choose where it flows next.